From WSLN, the Weathered Soul Liberty Network, based in Gilroy, California, the garlic capital of the world, we give you the Weathered Soul podcast with DJ Dougie and Bruce, aka the Weathered Soul. Stay with us for the next hour for intriguing conversation about our community, Gilroy, the South Bay, national scene, and even stuff around the world. So give us a little time and we will entertain you. Hey guys, how you doing? This is Bruce, aka the Weathered Soul, here on the Weathered Soul podcast with DJ Dougie. DJ Dougie, how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Doing
Happy freaking New Year. Happy 2022 to Dougie. I did a show last week, just a short little 22-minute show or something like that, just to introduce the new crowd, the new people from Rumble, because we are now on Rumble, and we're actually live on YouTube. I went back to YouTube, so who knows what's going to go on with YouTube, whether we're going to get struck off. But the first time that I tried to put this podcast on this week, I guess they didn't like the title or the content that I wrote down, because they said nope. So
Probably.
I had to rewrite some stuff, and hopefully we are there on YouTube right now, but I don't really care about YouTube right now. You can join us on rumble.com. That's where we're going to be posting the video portion of the Weathered Soul podcast, and you can also get us on Spreaker. But yeah, hey Doug, it's been a while, man, so I haven't seen you in a little bit. Ben, how you been doing? You guys have a good New Year and everything? You and Abby just kicking back and enjoying everything?
Quiet. Yeah, it was totally quiet. We didn't do much, just kind of hung out, watched the ball drop in New York and said, okay, it's New Year somewhere.
Yeah, I didn't make it. I didn't make it again. So, I mean, if I was on New York time, I probably made it till 9, but no, I made it till about 11. And then I woke up when, because, it's always a war zone around here, when 12 o'clock rolls around. So we had a pretty good fireworks show going on, but I kind of slept through it and stuff like that.
Yeah, I heard the fireworks.
Yeah,
definitely. It wasn't that long, but man, it was
loud. It was loud. It was going on pretty good, man. I heard gunshots in the air and everything. So it just wasn't fireworks, but yeah. So, yeah, I slept well on New Year's Eve. What I didn't do is I didn't sleep well last night. And man, I learned a lesson last night. Those of you that catch me on the morning drive with Bruce, aka the Weathered Soul, know that I have been in the middle of a intermittent fasting thing going on, and so I've been off of my feeding schedule, my eating schedule, and stuff like that. So what I've been doing is I've been eating till about 7 o'clock at night, and then after 7 o'clock, I stop for 16 hours. So most of my fast is during my sleep, and then when I wake up in the morning, I don't do anything. I drink some coffee with some Truvia in it, because that won't break a fast, and then I eat about 11 o'clock, which is 16 hours. So I'm in ketosis for about 4 hours, but it's got, what it does is it just really kind of cleans out your system and gets you re-energized and things that happen all the way around. And it's really good. But the problem is that last night after dinner, I haven't been dieting because, part of this challenge that I've been taking is a diet, but I don't diet. I do the fast just for kind of cleaning myself up. And I learned a lesson because my boss for Christmas bought me these cookies right here, Honolulu Cookie Company. And they got these little cookies in here. I'm going to show you one right now. I showed Dougie earlier, and they got these little cookies right here, and they're really good, man. If you can see them in the camera right there, they're a nice little cookie on here, and a little chocolate. I mean, that's almost all chocolate down there. Okay, so pretty heavy cookie. I mean, it's pretty good. They make cookie and then they dip it in chocolate. It's pretty thick. Well, it's triple dark chocolate. I ate that about 7 o'clock, and usually I go to bed somewhere around 8:30 or so, something like that. And usually, pretty sleepy around 9, and finally I close my eyes and go to sleep. Well, I did not go to sleep, and after the watching The Great Escape on TCM and watching Bridge Over River Kwai until 2 a.m., I still wasn't asleep. And man, I'm telling you what, don't eat triple dark chocolate at 7 o'clock at night if you're fasting, because it will keep you up all night. Anyhow, but we're having a great show today. I just wanted to welcome you guys. Last week, me and I took about 20 minutes of you guys' time and kind of introduced you to the show that we have going on. Doug hasn't been in the show. We haven't really put out a show since November. We kind of took December off. But we wanted to make sure that everybody know where we were coming from and who we were and what we were doing. And one of the things that we do here is that me and Dougie are both friends. I mean, that's we're real close friends. We've been friends for what now, going on 12 years now, and and have different opinions. And I think if you've watched the show before, because there's a lot of new people that are coming in from Rumble, and we haven't been on YouTube for a while, so some of us are coming into YouTube. And me and Dougie have different opinions on stuff. And one of the reasons why I brought Dougie onto the show was I wanted an alter Bruce to come on. And I'm gonna mute his mic there because he's making all kinds of noise over there. There he goes. And so one of the things that we do on this show, and I explained it last week, is that me and Dougie take topics. We'll lampoon the news. We'll talk about serious stuff. We'll talk about all kinds of things, and then what we'll do is we'll debate it or we'll comment on it and stuff like that. And it can get, jovial at times, can get heated at times. Both of us can laugh at each other, and both of us can joke with each other that they're wronger than the other person and stuff like that. And Dougie's got that little look that he just gave you right there, which is his roll the eyes in the back of his head, which he does to me often. But anyway. But that's the way it is. And one of the things that people have commented on the podcast is that we've always been able to walk away at the end as friends. And I love Dougie to death because he is the best co-host there is on podcast. I mean, you can go to a lot of podcasts and he is like the best podcast co-host that I've ever had, because I've only had like 2. So it's not bad. And anyway, so what we do is we do kind of like a Hannity and Combs, is that's what it was way back in the day. Hannity and Combs, back when Hannity and Combs were both little boys, and they got to play on Fox News. And I don't know what Dougie's what are you looking for there, Doug? You're all over the place, brother.
I'm trying to get my stuff out for my show notes, and my pen rolled off my table. I got a new one, so we're okay.
Anyway, so that's what the show's all about. We just really hope that you enjoy it. And the name of this show today, before I get to the name of the name of the show today is, this is going to be our last pandemic show. I mean, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately, and everybody is getting freaking tired of talking this COVID stuff. I mean, there's just been conspiracy theories are coming true throughout the year. People that are being waxed off of social media when months ago or even years ago, and stuff is coming back, and now all of a sudden it's okay to say, and it's just kind of weird. But that's the name of our show today. But I wanted to tell you guys something that I did over the last couple of weeks of what I've been doing while Dougie's been sitting at home, and he's been just sitting at home enjoying the new year too. But I've been getting organized, and I'm telling you what, man, I didn't know how unorganized I was in my online life forever, dude. It was crazy.
It's so hard to keep track of.
Let me tell you, if it wasn't for Google passwords, I wouldn't know any of my passwords. But the problem is that you can have all these sites that you go to and all that, and still you're lost, because if you're not at your computer, you don't have your phone, and you go to somebody else's computer, your company computer or something like that, and you're not, cruising, doing your own personal thing on your computer, you don't know your passwords, right? You can sign into Google and get them and stuff like that. But what I did is Tracy likes to, my wife likes to have them documented, and I put them in a safe. Well, you all know that this podcast is a part of the First Note Productions LLC. It's a company. We have a company. Me and Dougie is my co-host, and he's part of this company as far as the podcast is concerned. And I just wanted to share with you one little place and show you how many places that the Weathered Soul podcast is at in some way or another. We have affiliation with these websites right here. Dougie's going to laugh when I show it to him. So here we go. So we are with Anchor, Bluehost, Reverb Nation, Libsyn, Odyssey, Substack, GoDaddy Podcast, Apple Podcast, StreamYard, Patreon, Spreaker, Wix, Rumble, Stitcher, Locals.com, the Evil Empire YouTube, Zoom, Zencaster. I do Walk with Alzheimer's, and we do have an Eventbrite list. So, I mean, all these things have their own separate logins, their own separate passwords, and it was just incredible kind of the realization that you come to when you go like, oh my God, I don't know where I'm at. I mean, it came down to this. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to streamline the podcast, and I had to find out where we're at. I mean, because it's really labor intensive to go and to post to Odyssey, post to Rumble, post to YouTube. Thank God that StreamYard does a couple of things. They post to YouTube and they post to, Facebook for us, but they don't post the audio and they don't post the stuff to Rumble and stuff like that. They're just not capable yet. So, I mean, I've got all these sites and all these landing sites, all these web pages and all that are all affiliated with First Note Productions or the podcast in some way, shape, or form. And one of these days I got to put them all together to make sure that all the current information's on them. It's crazy. It's a crazy situation, and I need a social media manager. So anybody who's out there that needs a job and wants a social media manager, I'm looking for somebody to hire.
Sure.
And to be totally honest with you, my list is at least that big in my personal life for my personal stuff. All the bills and stuff we pay. Everything else is crazy, man.
Well, we started doing probably, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, is we got one of those address books, like a old fashioned address book, A, B, C, D, W, X, Y, Z. And we write the website down under its appropriate first letter and its password. And we have like a book full of them. Can look them up anytime we need to.
Yeah, I was just, I'm not a bookkeeper at work, but I'm a document control guy at work. And you're always worse at doing your job at home than you are at work. So I don't do document control very good at work, I'm sure. That's just the way things are. It's crazy, but it was a slap. Yeah, it was real. It was an eye opener, to tell you the truth, just how many different passwords and stuff that you have and logins. And I even found my Bitcoin wallet that I made like a couple of years ago. I think it was like 4 years ago. I made a Bitcoin wallet. Never bought one Bitcoin in my life, but I got a Bitcoin wallet and I finally found it. And I was kind of worried about it the other day, going like, okay, what's my Bitcoin wallet? Because once you get your wallet, that's one piece of the blockchain that can never be used by anybody else. So they say. So who knows how that is? But yeah, I finally found my Bitcoin wallet, and it's just a situation of just going to Google and going right down the list of every single site that you've been to, and it shows you whatever password that you have. Of course, you have to have your excuse me, I can't even talk today. My credentials and stuff to be able to access them. But yeah, just totally eye-opening. So anybody who's out there that you need to go find what your social media footprint is, because it's almost as big as my carbon footprint.
So true.
Anyway, Doug, so it's good to be back. 2022 is a brand new year. And like I said, I wanted this to be our last pandemic podcast because I'm just so tired of it. I don't know about Dougie.
Do you think that's going to make the pandemic go away?
No, absolutely not. That's just, I'm tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of hearing the pros and the cons and the arguments and the anti-arguments and the facts and the not facts and the science and the unscience and the just everything, and it's just one of those things where I just get tired of listening to the rhetoric all the time, and I do complain about it all the time. That is for sure. one of the things that have been very prevalent in the social media circles is that, especially with YouTube, is that there's things that we can say now, like, I doubt very seriously that we're going to get another strike on YouTube for talking about the coronavirus today in any capacity that I'm going to show you, because I'm going to read you a letter later on and get Dougie's reaction on it. And, but there's things that you can say now about the vaccine that you couldn't say before. There's things about the coronavirus and the way it hits people that you couldn't say a year ago, that people were getting deplatformed, people were getting kicked off and censored off of YouTube. Even myself have been censored off of YouTube because of things that I've said about coronavirus, about masks, about vaccines and stuff like that, because it was taboo. All of a sudden now the narrative is starting to change. The narrative is starting to change because even the CEO of Pfizer has said that, look, the vaccine isn't doing what we thought it was going to do, but what it is doing is like me and Doug we've always agreed on this fact that the vaccine is somewhat going to keep you out of the hospital, keep you from getting severe disease. But I'm from the old school that says the vaccine is supposed to, just not be able to give you the disease and not be able to carry the disease. Doug has a different spin on it, but that's cool. That's fine. I mean, that's how we roll here. But the narrative is changing, and the narrative changed. And I do understand that the science is not final, but the problem is that 2 years ago, 18 months ago, a year ago, 3 months ago, people were just, there were certain people in the media that were saying that the science is final and this is just the way it is. And as we roll along and the science keeps rolling along, things are changing. Things are all kinds of changing. All of a sudden the cloth mask is useless. Well, it is useless unless you have a KN95 mask. You're not going to keep away from the coronavirus. I mean, whether the best mask you can get is probably a roll of gray duct tape, and then put that over your mouth, and then you'll never contract coronavirus, and you'll never pass it along, and you'll die within about a couple of minutes.
That's smart. Yeah. And the empirical data shows that masks do help. Okay. And it's funny how I don't know why people have their opinions one way or another, or what fuels them, but common sense and experience kind of like weigh in the favor of some sort of protection. I mean, there are countries that people wear masks, voluntarily. Even Sweden, okay. People still wore masks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, because if the person next to you is coughing, it's good to have that shit kind of retained a little bit. Yeah, now, if you're talking about protecting yourself from inhaling, then yeah, you might as well just go ahead and get yourself a VOC grade respirator that lets nothing in but oxygen. If that's what you really want to do. If that's what you thought masks were for, then you were only fooling yourself. Okay, you didn't listen to what people were saying. You only heard what you wanted to hear, right? Because nobody ever said that they were gonna that a 2 or 3 layer cloth mask, even masks that you can insert an N95 filter into, were going to stop you from inhaling the virus. It was there to stop you from spewing it as far when you went out in public while you were sick, because you have such a high sense of personal responsibility, like we all have in this country.
Exactly.
That's what the masks are all about. Just to remind you that you know what, it is. You could be sick and you could be killing people.
Yeah.
Doug of course, the virus has changed, right? The virus is mutated. Our weapons against it have gotten better. The science has gotten better. There's a reason why it was called a novel virus. Remember, from 2 years ago. We were talking about this. We know
Right.
shit because it's novel. That
It's
means
novel.
new. That
It's
means you
novel.
don't know nothing.
That's so
You don't
novel.
know nothing.
That's so
Right?
novel.
So we're learning. So
Yeah.
if you expected things to stay the same, then you're fooling yourself again too. And
Yes.
probably getting agitated by people whose intent is to agitate you so that more people will say their names and they get more money. So while they're
Yes.
doing this, well, wait a second, do this the right way. This is my right hand. While they're doing this with their right hand, okay, they're coming around like this with their left hand, and they're going
Collecting the
whoop,
money.
whoop, and pulling your wallet right out your butt.
See, I love the way that Dougie brings that across. But anyway,
Yeah,
hey, what I
well,
want to do
because
is I
that's
want
all.
to.
That's what it's all about. So whatever you're listening to, all right, you know, there's certain shows where they have, you know, alleged experts or people who have credentials that should make them experts, and you hear them discuss the science and what they know as the science. And there's other shows where there's people who just spew out their opinions,
Mhm.
and the
Right.
opinion shows can go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you and I say that all the time. We're just giving you stupid opinions. We're not
Oh yeah.
scientists.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
If you're listening to us, then you're one of those people that's fooling themselves. We're just here to talk about. We're just here to
Well,
talk about the reactions and the actions and stuff. We're not here to
well,
talk about the science itself,
well, there
right?
is experts and there's doctors and other
Uh,
people that have got their not opinions but also facts that they've talked about. I picked up one from Tom Woods the other day, Professor Ehud Krimron, head of
oh,
Department of
not this.
Microbiology and Immunology at Tel Aviv University, and he's one of the leading Israeli immunologists. Has written an open letter sharply criticizing Israel and the indeed global management of the coronavirus pandemic. However, what I want to say before I read some of this letter is that there's been a lot of doctors that come out, Dr. Bhattacharya, Dr. Robert Malone, who is the actually has many patents on the mRNA. I always say it wrong. The mRNA technology,
mRNA.
mRNA. Did that anyway.
I think.
One of these days we're gonna have a blooper reel. But anyway, there's a lot of people that on one side, and a lot of people on the other side. So I just want to get through this real quick, and we'll just let it. So in the end of the truth will always be revealed. The truth was about the coronavirus policy is beginning to be revealed. When the destructive concepts collapse one by one, there's nothing left but the experts but to lead the management of the pandemics and say, "We told you so." 2 years late, you finally realize that respiratory viruses cannot be defeated and that any such attempt is doomed to fail. You do not admit it because you have admitted almost no mistake in the last 2 years, but in retrospect, it is clear that you have failed miserably, and in almost all your actions, and even the media is already having a hard time covering your shame. You refuse to admit that the infection comes in waves and fades by themselves, despite years of observations, which has only been two, and the scientific knowledge you insisted on attributing every decline of wave solely to your actions, and through your false propaganda, you overcame the plague. And again, you defeated it, and again and again and again. You refuse to admit that the mass testing is ineffective despite your own contingency plans explicitly stating so. In the pandemic Influenza Health System Preparedness Plan 2007, page 26, which I have. And you refuse to admit that the recovery is more protective than a vaccine, despite the previous knowledge that observations showing that non-recovered vaccinated people are more likely to be infected than recovered people. You refuse to admit that the vaccinated are contagious, despite despite the observations. Based on this, you hope to achieve immunity by vaccination, and you failed at that as well. You insisted on ignoring that the fact that the disease is dozens of times more dangerous for risk groups and older adults than for young people and those not in the risk groups, despite the knowledge that came from China as early as 2020. You refused to adopt the Barrington Declaration, signed by more than 60,000 scientists and medical professionals and other common sense programs. You chose to ridicule, slander, destroy, distort, discredit, and instead of the right programs and people, you have chosen professionals who lack relevant training for pandemic management, physicians and chief government advisors, veterinarians, security officers, media personnel, and so on. You have not set up an effective system for reporting side effects from the vaccines, and reports on side effects have been deleted from your Facebook page. Doctors avoid linking side effects to the vaccine, lest you persecute them as you did with some of your colleagues. You have ignored many reports in change of menstrual intensity and menstrual cycle times. You hid data that allows for objective, proper research. For example, you removed the data on passengers at Ben Gurion Airport. Instead, you chose to publish non-objective articles together with the senior Pfizer executives on the effectiveness of the safety of vaccines. However, from the heights of your hubris, you have also ignored the fact that at the end, the truth will be revealed, and it begins to be revealed. The truth is that you have bought the public's trust to an unprecedented low, and you have eroded the status of the source of authority. The truth is that you have burnt hundreds and billions of shekels to no avail for publishing the intimidation and ineffective tests and destructive lockdowns and disrupting the routine of life in the last 2 years. You have destroyed the education of our children and their futures. You have made children feel guilty, scared, smoke, drink, get addicted, drop out, quarrel, as school principals around the country attest. You have harmed livelihoods, the economy, human rights, mental health, and physical health. You slandered colleagues who did not surrender to you. You turned people against each other. You divided the society and polarized the discourse. You branded without any scientific basis people who chose not to get vaccinated as enemies of the public and spreaders of the disease. You promote in an unprecedented way a draconian policy of discrimination, denial, and rights of your selected of people, including children and their medical choice, a selection that lacks any epidemiological justification. When you compare the destructive policies that are pursuing with the same policies of some other countries, you can clearly see that the destruction you have caused has only added victims beyond the vulnerable to the virus. The economy you ruin, the unemployment you cause, and the children whose education you destroyed. They are surplus victims as a result of your own actions only. There is currently no medical emergency. You have been cultivating such conditions for 2 years now because for the lust of power, budgets, and control. The only emergency now is that you still set policies that hold huge budgets and propaganda and psychological engineering instead of directing them to strengthen your healthcare system. This emergency must stop. Signed, Professor Yudi Qumran, Faculty of Medicine at Tel Aviv University. Wow, that was a long letter. However, where are you at? Whoa. You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
Unmuted. You could have paraphrased a little bit,
I could have.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
it's just a couple of things quick.
Hold on.
Off the top.
Let me make something here real quick.
Sure.
It begs to question that these sentiments have been carried over to a couple of different people that I listen to. However, most of the doctors that I've listened to, like Dr. Bhattacharya, Malone, and the other guy that was on Eric Larson, all have been vaccinated. All do, all believe that vaccinations is the way to go as far as it is for a risk for an at-risk person. So with that said, we are not, like I said, me and Dougie are not anti-vax. We've never been anti-vax. I don't think not one time have we said that vaccinations don't work. I don't think that one time we've ever said that we're not going to get vaxxed, and not one time did we say, I argue about masks and of course, Doug has his counter argument and stuff like that, but I just wanted to make that self clear that sentiment is being held by many people. So I'll just go ahead and let Doug take this floor.
Well, first of all, what the hell do I care what some Israeli doctor is saying to the Israeli parliament? Number one. And number two, why is he quoting something out of the U.S. pandemic contingency plan, which says everything that we did, although it applies to the swine flu and was written in 2007. Okay, so what the hell are we even listening to this guy for? What do you care? What the hell do you care what he has to say, except for the fact that you searched the internet till you found something that agreed with what you said and said, I'm going to publish this. Okay, which is like, why? So in his letter, what's the solution? Okay, were we supposed to have done nothing and just let everybody die? We're supposed to not even try? Is he saying that everything you did was wrong? He said everything you did was wrong. You fucked everything up. So what were we supposed to do?
Okay, well, I can bring a couple of arguments back up to. I can bring a couple of arguments back up to that.
Like what?
And up to that fact. So
that let people die. It's cool. I agree with that. Well, I mean, you want to get into that.
I mean, I actually said, let's go ahead and let this thing burn through. I mean, we had that discussion before. To me,
let all the sick and disabled people just die, because we don't need them in society, right? What the hell good are they to us? All the old people, all the disabled people, all the sick people, all the people who have compromised immune systems, who have birth defects, all that stuff. Just let them all die. Fuck them. Let's not do anything.
But let's
not even try.
But that's not what we said.
Let's take our God-given intelligence and flush it down the toilet, because God gave us these big brains just so that we can live in the trees and scratch our armpits. Right.
Well, John Odermatt just pulled in and said, protect the vulnerable and let the healthy live their lives, which is what I want to, always say.
How do you do that without telling people, like, put on masks and stay the fuck away from other people and don't go out if you're sick?
Well,
especially if people aren't going to listen to that, because they got no sense of personal responsibility. Right?
Here we go. Okay, I'll cackle like Kamala.
Thank you. Anyway,
no,
seriously, because I'm a little disappointed. All right, because this has become a political thing where people are taking sides, and they don't care if it's right, wrong, or indifferent. They're just going with what their side says, even if it's wrong, even if it's counterproductive.
I disagree with you.
I completely agree. No, you're wrong. I'm sorry, but you're wrong.
It's okay if you're wrong too. But anyway, let me make my case.
Let's use my case. One of your favorite places, Sweden, as an example.
Okay.
Let's make Sweden tried it. Sweden tried it. Let's let people do their personal responsibility, and it worked fairly well.
Yeah.
But guess what Sweden just did?
Yeah,
Sweden just passed new laws saying that the government does have the power to tell you what the fuck to do.
Yeah, they got rid of their anti-fascism laws.
Because even though they recommended people wear masks, and lots of people did, and they recommended that you don't go out in public in big gatherings without social distancing, wearing masks, recommended you get vaccines. Most Swedes followed all these things. They didn't have to be mandated, because they had enough common sense in their own heads to say, yeah, this makes sense to me. If that guy over there can cough on me and kill me, I'm going to stay away from him, and I want him to stay away from me.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's kind of the way common sense works.
And it worked to a point, but not enough. Not enough of them, and a much higher percentage than that would happen in this country. Right? Because everybody in this country thinks they're smart because they've done graduated the 8th grade.
I got to go with the facts and the data here, because when you look at the charts and you look at the infected as opposed to the deaths, especially with this new Omicron virus, that that all the charts look the same, whether you look at New York, whether you look at Florida, whether you look at California, whether you look at Texas. I mean, all the charts look the same. You have a high infection rate and you have a low death rate. And that's just the way it is.
Well, that's what it is
even
right now.
And even if you had and even when they had a high death rate, the data was still the same. You had the most lockdown, the most draconian lockdown and and stuff that you had here in California and New York City, as opposed to what you did in Texas and in Florida, and the curves all look the same. You cannot tell them apart. I can give you a test. I can send you a test. In fact, I think I sent you the test by Tom Woods that tried to get you to tell you what chart is for what state and at what time that happened. And nobody has been able to pass this test because they're all wrong. You'll see this great big high peak when masks and lockdowns were implemented, and all the charts and everything have damn near the same results. So it didn't matter whether you mitigated with masks or lockdowns or whatever. I don't think the data is out on vaccines yet, but we all know that the vaccines, as far as we're talking about transmission, is not working.
But
It's not working.
Because nobody obeyed any of that crap.
That's not true. That's not true. Because
What do
you've
you mean
got
it's not
you
true?
have the most. You're talking about New York here. New York has the strictest, if not besides San Francisco, New York City has the strictest coronavirus laws.
Yeah.
Yet their data is no different than Orlando, Florida, or Jacksonville, Florida, or Miami, Florida. No different. There's
No different. Well, what do
different.
you mean by data?
There's
like
no.
like the
We're
shapes
talking
of
about
the
data,
curves or
we're
the
talking
gross
about
numbers?
We're talking about the gross numbers. We're talking about the shapes of the curves. We're talking about per capita infections and deaths. We're talking all of that, and demographics. So that's kind of where we're at with that situation. So I just wanted to kind of put that to rest. I wanted me and Dougie kind of mix it up because this is what we do. I mean, this is how we are. I mean, look, we're both smiling at each other. I think we can high five if we're high fiving each other.
So I'm curious though. In that letter, he said something about on page 26 of your handbook, and you sent me a link.
Yeah, I sent you a link, and there's no page 26. There's a page. You can scroll down, and if you count the pages down from the table of contents, I think that's what they were talking about. I had a hard time finding it myself. So
okay, because I found this one, and anyway, this is for the swine flu, and it's from November of 2007.
Well, I've got a comment on that just to let you know is that we had a pandemic handbook that the CDC. This was not just the U.S. This is the CDC's handbook. That came out. So
US government.
This is the CDC. This is government. So they had a pandemic. They had a pandemic plan, and it just got scrapped. Now you can blame Trump on scrapping it. You can blame the CDC on scrapping it. You can blame the WHO on scrapping it. The fact is that they scrapped everything that they knew about lockdowns and all these other things during pandemics. And in my opinion is that it didn't work. I mean, it did not work. Now, I told you this long before when we started arguing about coronavirus in the first place, is that I did my research on SARS and MERS and all those other coronavirus vaccines that they were doing before they even started on the vaccine here, and they had never made one that had worked. And they still have it. It's still, to this day, it hasn't been one that had worked. It's just that's the way. That's the way it is.
This is just it's just a plan, but basically it's the same strategies as what they did for Corona.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, kind of. I mean, when
exactly. I mean, step one, don't gather in large groups. Step two, teletalk or telecommute. Work from home. Isolate cubicles with dividers and gaps between people. Get vaccinated. Stay at home.
Yeah, but they didn't lock down the economy. They didn't stop the economy. They didn't stop life from happening.
Really?
They did not.
Social distances, vaccination, antiviral medicines.
Those are all
personal protective equipment.
Yes, those are all
telework.
Personal.
Leave and other human resource flexibilities.
Yeah, keep going.
What is there?
because I want to get onto the
telework
I want to get onto
policy
our next. I want to get onto our next subject. But anyway.
But basically, it's all right.
So one of the biggest problems that I had with what happened is that when Trump started doing the warp speed,
I found it here.
Go ahead.
All right.
Here we go.
So whenever possible, rather than relying on the use of face masks or respirators, close contact and crowded conditions should be avoided during an influenza pandemic.
Yeah, but don't you do that anyway?
So he's taking that and saying that masks don't work. It's even in your own handbook.
Yeah, but don't you do that anyway? Don't you do that, Doug? Do you come over to my house when you're coughing, sick, and freaking hacking and feverish and stuff?
No, I only come to your house when you are. To do a stupid podcast.
Anyway,
the show must go on.
So one of the things that's promising on the coronavirus front, as we have our last show,
there's more to this still.
And I really want to thank John. I want to thank John Odermatt, because here's John saying the same thing that he's always said about our show. Two friends arguing, and that's what makes America great. People used to do this all the time and still be friends, and it's a great show. John, thank you for saying that, man. I mean, that's kind of what the crux of this show. John is kind of the guy that we want
John,
to be.
Listen, Dougie hasn't watched CNN since they fired Chris. No, I don't watch that shit, actually. I try to avoid that crap.
So from KHN, which is the Kaiser Health Network, we have got some information that a lab study finds that certain cannabis compounds may block the coronavirus.
Oh, you're going straight to the big guns.
And I love this.
Pretty interesting, isn't it?
So it's very interesting because, I don't know if you know, and I don't know if we want to divulge this, but if I've got the tie dye in the background, so that kind of tells you what I'm into.
Yeah, wannabe hippie.
But just a short little blurb out of here. Cannabis compounds prevented the virus that causes COVID-19 from penetrating the healthy human cells, according to a laboratory study published under the Journal of Nature Products. Two compounds found in hemp called cannabigerolic acid, or CBGA, and cannabidolic acid, CBDA, were identified during the chemical screening effort as having potential combat coronavirus. Researchers from Oregon State University said in the study they bound to the spike proteins found on the virus and blocked the step pathogen that it uses to infect people.
Yeah. So they all shared the same bong and nobody got sick, so it must work.
Smoke on, baby. Smoke on. Smoke on. It's actually what I wanted to hear, because actually not more than a month or maybe two ago, they were coming out. I don't know who it was starting a rumor, but they were going like, you're smoking pot during this coronavirus pandemic is giving you heart attacks. So that was one of the main things that was causing the heart attacks. Everybody was on this great big, soccer players are dying in the middle of the field of heart attacks and stuff like that. Well, I guess they must have been pot smokers too, because that's what they were trying to blame it on. And I can't go back to the quote because I really don't have the quote. It was such a ridiculous quote that I didn't even look and see who made the claim, but it was ridiculous kind of thing. And that, I think when we walk away from this pandemic, because we're going to walk away from this pandemic, I really believe that the Omicron virus is probably not the last mutation, but it's probably going to be the dominant mutation that's going to be here for a long time. And I think it's actually going to be the one that kind of burns things out. I'm hoping so, and I think that Doug hopes so too. I mean, none of us wants this to go on forever. We really want to go back on into our own lives and get things back together, and and that's one of the things that I hope that happens. Who knows how we've had it, how much we've had it, and stuff like that. I got a test every Sunday before I go to work now. So as far as I know, I didn't have it, but Tracy had a bad cold here, a couple of weeks ago. So I mean, who knows? She wouldn't test. So go figure. But yeah, I'm just hoping that this is gone soon, and I think Dougie gives my sentiments. I'll let you have the last word.
Well, if you're sick and you feel like you need to go to the hospital, then you need a test. But if you're sick, what good is a test going to do you except say, yeah, you're sick?
Yep.
Right. I mean,
Yep.
if you go to if you're feeling sick and you go and get a coronavirus test and it says you're positive, are you immediately going to check yourself into the emergency room, or are you going to go home?
Yeah.
Right.
It's common sense.
I would go home, and if I get sicker, I'd consider another plan.
Yep.
But I would still be in the same situation whether I tested it or not. So I agree with that point of view of that kind of a test is just to know. It's not for any good other than just to know.
That's true.
Right.
That is true.
So
anyway, so at the end result, I think what we say is like, if you need to test, go get tested. If you're sick and you think you need to get tested, go get tested. If you're sick, but you just have a cold and stuff like that, if it's real bad, then go to the emergency room. Don't clog it up if you just have a sniffle or a cough or a little headache. I mean, at least take the preventative measures.
A friend of mine, all right, guy I work with, he must have torn a abdomen muscle or strained something, but he was in a lot of pain, like could hardly breathe, thought he had appendicitis.
Oh, you were telling me about this.
Yeah, went to emergency room. They're like, no, go to urgent care. Went to urgent care. Was there from like 7 o'clock at night until 1 o'clock in the morning when they closed and said, we're closing, go to emergency room. He walked in there, looked around, saw what was in the emergency room and said, no, I'm going to go home. I stand a better chance. So don't go to the emergency room unless you absolutely have to.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to get on with the show, which is one of my favorite. This is what we started doing at the end of this year in November, and what we're calling this is a Sublime Headline. And these are 3 headlines that I took from Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC before I came on the show today. And what I like to do is I like to give them to Dougie, and he can make his little pitch about what he thinks about these headlines. I've got the story behind him because I got him set up here, and we're just going to start off with Fox News here with the one that we have today. So here's the one that we have today. So, bunny rabbits and ice cream. Psaki goes off. Is that how you say Psaki, or is it Saki, or is it Psaki? Goes off script after being asked at the White House things are going pretty poorly. And basically, the first couple of paragraphs on it says White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki deployed colorful bit of sarcasm Thursday in response to a question regarding the setbacks that continue to pile up for the Biden administration. It was a bitter day for the White House that saw the Supreme Court block President Biden's corporate vaccine mandate, and moderate Democrat senators rejected change to the filibuster needed to pass the elections overhaul legislation, the centerpiece of Biden's agenda. The comment drew a retort from Psaki, who said that the business of the White House was difficult and that the president's job was to propose frivolous, easy things. So that's the headline that Fox came up with. So I mean, I think I do better. Headlines. What do you think, Dougie?
Yeah, I don't know. That almost sounds like something from like a Garfield cartoon, right? The president's job is to come up with useless, worthless ideas. Anyway,
go ahead.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting the way that some of these headlines come up. But the thing that I want to press again is we've got to remember that we really are looking at a situation where these people that generate the headlines are taking sound bites and they're putting things together in order to attract viewers to sell commercial time and make money. So it's really, whatever you hear on the news, you've got to take with a grain of salt.
Every time. No matter whether you hate salt or not.
Are we having technical difficulties, Bruce?
Why is that? Where you at?
We may be having technical difficulties.
No, I
I
hear
may
you
not
just
be there, or
fine.
Bruce may not be there.
No, I hear you just fine. You're there. You're all right. Can you hear me? Okay. Since Dougie's off the air and he's trying to get himself back on, I'll just take over the show right here, and he can tell me when he's back, because I can see him just fine. I can hear him just fine. So I think maybe his laptop.
Well, I'm going to keep talking just in case.
You just go ahead and keep talking.
So anyway, another couple of things that Bruce had on our hit list tonight were a couple of gaffes from the Supreme Court justices. One is who's this? Sotomayor said we have over 100,000 children, which we've never had before, in serious condition, and many on ventilators. I don't know if that's a gaffe or not.
It is very much a gaffe.
The fact check says there are fewer than 3,500 children in hospitals with COVID-19 from Rochelle Walensky on January 9th, 2022. Yep. But I don't think I believe that.
Yeah, that is the truth, because
from CDC, from the New York Times, and from other places, is that there's quite a few more thousands than 3,500. And also, Justice Gorsuch, the flu kills hundreds. The flu kills hundreds of thousands of people each year. In the U.S., that's about probably average of like 36,000 over the last
30,000, 36,000.
Yeah. Some years worse than others, but worldwide, yeah, it's in the 300,000 to 750,000 range. So you got to wonder where these people are getting their information from, and what they're actually talking about, and what the commenters are seeing in it. Because if you want to get the raw numbers, then you can possibly say, yeah, okay, that must have been what they were talking about. If you want to take it out of context and put your own meaning to it, then possibly you can make something else up. Sorry. There we
go. There we go. I had to text Dougie just to let him know what's going on here. There we go. Are you there, Dougie? Are you there yet? He's not there. He doesn't even know I'm around. But anyway, so I'm going to take over here and just say a couple of things about what he just said. Now, Sotomayor did say exactly what she said, and what bugs me actually totally about that is the fact that she should be knowledgeable in these facts. And there hasn't even been, since the coronavirus started, there hasn't even been 82,000. I think the number is 82,000 kids that have been hospitalized since the coronavirus started going on. Less than 5,000 has been updated since they came out with this gaffe. As far as with Gorsuch is concerned, he was wrong. And what bugs me the most out of all this is that there's no transparency, there's no accountability with that, because none of it has been retracted. And that bugs me, because what happens is that people usually tend to believe the first thing that they hear. And people ran with this $100,000. I ran with the 100,000 kids, and the media ran with the 100,000 kids, and I immediately went to go research it. And the research turned out true, that there was less than 5,000 kids that have been in the hospital with coronavirus since the inception of March 2020. And it's really, really sad that has happened. And I just, I have a problem with our representatives that we have in Washington, D.C., especially when we're making important decisions about coronavirus and about the pandemic. That we be accurate in what we say. And I know we have a problem with that in the Supreme Court. I know we have a problem with that in Congress, and we have a problem with that as high as the Oval Office. And that's where we're at. So Dougie's coming back up right here. We've got the hurricane of death right there, but I'm sure that he'll come up here pretty soon. And it must be either his internet or his laptop, one of the two. But like I said, that's kind of where I'm at with it. And but hey, what I want to do is I want to thank you guys for listening to the podcast. I want to thank you guys for watching the podcast here. Do me a favor. if you like this podcast, even if you don't like this podcast, one thing that I really need you to do is subscribe to it on YouTube. Go to our Rumble site. We're rumble.com. Look for the Weathered Soul podcast there, and you can go like my page over there. You can share this with a friend. Please share this with 3 friends, 2 friends that you have, and 1 friend that needs to hear what me and Dougie had to say. And please go to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating or any kind of rating. Leave us a comment about the podcast. I am on social media, so I've got all kinds of things that you can get me on here. Let me get my banners up right here because my computer's acting kind of crazy too. And but right there, you can contact me at also known as TWS. That's on Twitter. Facebook, I'm Bruce McGee, and the email is brucetheweatheredsoul@gmail.com. There's Dougie back again. And yeah.
Got a DNS server error.
Oh my gosh. So, that's the way it goes.
I had to switch to a different router.
Also,
wow. I was talking for about 10 minutes before I realized what happened.
I let you go. So everybody heard what you had to say, and then I did my little rebuttal after you were off, and you might like it or you might not. It's just
I'm gonna have to watch the show now.
Yeah, you have to watch the show now. But you can find all the show note links to today's live podcast and other podcasts in the show notes. In the show notes section of either Facebook or Rumble or YouTube or Spreaker, because this is going on Spreaker. As soon as we're done here, I'll put the audio on Spreaker and vice versa. But that's where we go. And that is our new home for our audio feed. So please go to www.spreaker.com, go to the Weathered Soul podcast, and you can find our audio podcast there, as well as you can find the Morning Drive with Bruce, aka the Weathered Soul. In the next couple of months, I'll be introducing Bruce for Liberty inside this podcast. I'm kind of slimmed the podcast down. You can also find me and John Odermatt on the In the Pit of My Stomach podcast, which we'll be doing on a monthly basis. Me and John are working very hard on a infomercial type thing that we're going to be running on YouTube and all the rest of the places, even on the radio spots and stuff like that. So me and him are working hard on the Plexus business and things like that. But we just we love to have you support our stuff. So you can go to Facebook groups, the Weathered Soul podcast. You can go to this Facebook group there. We're all over the place, and we're the best podcast that you've never heard of. You can always find me on the nomadnetwork.app. That is www.nomadnetwork.app. That is my entrepreneur site that Jason Stapleton set up for us, and it's a great place to get involved with some other people that have like-minded interests. If you're into small businesses and stuff like that, making your own kind of money and making your side business and doing a side hustle, that's where you can find everything else, man. So follow that link right there, and you'll get me some credit there, and you'll give me some credibility, and we're going to be off and running. But please, 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 please share this program. Subscribe, ring the bell, share it, like it, do whatever you have to do. We appreciate each and every one of you, and I really appreciate this guy over here, that guy right there, the best freaking podcast co-host that ever hit the airwaves right there. DJ Dougie. He's not for sale. You can't have him. He's mine.
Well, I'm not cheap anyway.
Dougie, love to you and Abby, man. We love you guys.
I love you too, man.
Yeah, thanks for being my co-host, man. And you know what? You guys have a great evening, and we will see you guys in a couple of weeks with a brand new. We're not going to talk about the pandemic or coronavirus anymore. We're going to do all kinds of other stuff other than that crap, and we're done with it.
Let's stop talking about the shit they're distracting us with, and let's start talking about the shit that's important.
That's right. No more fear porn here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Say good night, Dougie.
Good night, Dougie.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later.
Everyone.